Good morning. I'm so glad to be here this morning. Of course, when you're as young as I am, you're glad to be preaching anywhere. Giving honor to God, who is indeed the head of my life. Giving honor to Reverend Ruth Vann in her absence. And Jane Phillips, I thank God for you. And for all you all here this morning, I thank God for you as well. Today I will be coming from the book of Genesis and the first chapter and the second verse. And it reads according to the Common English Bible. When God began to create the heavens and the earth was without shape or form. It was dark over the deep sea, and God's wind swept over the waters. Now, if you would, please join me in a quick word of prayer. Now, Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, my hope, my strength, and my Redeemer. Amen. The new year is always a time of new beginning. The year of old has shrouded itself in the annals of history, while the new year is rising over the horizons of hope and possibility. The new year is a time when many people are thanking God for what has transpired in the previous year, while praying for God's grace and mercy in the future. The new year symbolizes a time of reflection on the past, while remaining hopeful about what God has in store for the future, therefore being a joyous time of possibility. The text this morning strangely leads us into a similar scenario. Here in this first book of the Bible, we find a story of past reality and hopeful possibility. The text provides us with a picture of the dichotomy between reality and the future, unproductivity and creativity, doubt and hope. The text this morning presents us with the first half of the previous contrast. The reality of the world as we know it started out as an unproductive and dark abyss. The second verse tells us that the earth was a formless void. And as I sat there and I thought through the text, I realized that currently some of our lives are in the same boat, formless and void. Formless because many of us are walking around without a sense of direction. Formless because many of us don't possess a sense of drive. I also realize that some of us are walking around with great voids in our lives. A void is an emptiness or a form of openness. A void can be small and tolerable, or they can be, as they often are, large and multiple. The void of equality eats away at our unity. The void of innocent blood not being shed eats away at our peace. And the void of proper education eats away at our hope for the future. These voids, as a result, eat away at the stability of our lives, thus causing lives that are formless and void. Genesis 1 and 2 wrestles with the world without form while also presenting the darkness. This force, upon looking at it, could be viewed as being negative. Darkness is often looked at as being a place of horrific mystery, a place of unproductivity, a place of gloom, and a place of fear so widespread that one of the most common fears people have is the fear of the dark. Darkness is perceived as being a place of evil and a place of crippling obscurity. Many of us would look at our environments now and say that we are in a dark place. When it is easier for people to say that all lives matter and have a harder time saying Black lives matter, we are in a dark place. When it is easier for people to say that all lives matter but have a harder time saying that poor lives matter, we are in a dark place. When it is easier for people to say that all lives matter, but have a harder time saying women's lives matter, we are in a place of darkness. When it is easier to say that all lives matter, but have a harder time saying that LGBTQIA lives matter, we are living in a dark place. When it becomes hard to speak out against injustice and prejudice and inequality, we are living in darkness. It is easy to look at the presentation of darkness as one being bad, but I'm so glad that the text also presents darkness differently. Genesis uses the darkness not necessarily as a place of evil, but as a place of hope and wonderful possibility. Could it be that the darkness that many of us are experiencing in our lives also contain hope? It is easier for us to look at our current situations and marinate on the bad, but it isn't as easy to see the hope. So often the dark seems so desolate that the hope for some kind of possibility, for some kind of positivity to come out seems nearly impossible. This narrative beautifully problematizes the concept of darkness. However, the good news lies within the darkness because while in the darkness, the text also discusses the presence of water and a wind. In verse 2, we see a shift occurring. The lonely darkness becomes coupled with water. The water here, beyond the veil of darkness, becomes an incubating force for life and rebirth to occur. The wind, symbolizing God's presence, becomes means by which creation occurs. Many things in our lives would change if we recognized the water and the wind. Equality can happen when we recognize the water and the wind. Peace can happen when we recognize the water and the wind. Love can happen when we recognize the water and the wind. Verse 2 says, the darkness was upon the face of the deep. And, another translation says, the deep sea. And the Spirit of God hovered, or it'll say a wind of God swept over the water. This text describes the great power of God pulling the good out of a seemingly bad predicament. Somebody here is looking for some good in their darkness. You've wandered through this past year with a great void in your life. However, just like the water in the darkness, I want somebody to know that no matter how bad your dark situation is, hope is always in the midst. No matter how much hatred is around, love is always in the midst. No matter how much detachment may be in your family, reconciliation is always in the midst. No matter how much racism and homophobia and sexism may occur, peace is always in the midst. The good can happen in your darkness because you have the beautiful possibility in the water, and you have the wind of God working with you for your renewal. So look up and look out and let God sweep over your soul and sweep over your water of hope. Thank you.